Very soon, in fact. Power Talk, hosted by our very own Jean Adrienne. And we're live, Jean Adrienne.
And happy Monday, and welcome to Power Talk. I'm Jean Adrienne. I'm your host. And you know, every week I'm going to bring you cutting-edge information from lots of great sources to help you as you make your choices and raise your vibration, because together we are creating a brand new reality. I invite you to visit my website, and while you're there, please remember to sign up for my newsletter so that I can send you your very own free subscription to the online version of my Inner Speak card so that you can clear away the things that are holding you back from being all that you can be and having everything you desire in your life. And you do it all by yourself on your computer, the privacy of your home. And if you have problems, you can always get in touch with me and I will support you in using those cards. If you don't like my newsletter, you can opt out at any point in time and still keep using the cards as long as you want. And I never share or sell my list, so you're safe with me. Also, want to make sure everybody is aware of this incredible new class that I'm doing right now, which ties right into our subject today. The class is called Reconnecting Soul, 142 DNA activations. It is 9 one-hour-long recorded classes that include all 142 of the DNA activations from my Reconnecting Soul card deck. And it's been a very powerful experience for me and for all the people who worked with me while I recorded it. And I know you'll enjoy it. You can sign up for it on the class page of my website under Work with Jean, and then go down to classes. And that will pop you in. It's just $144 for all 142 activations. But kind of, you know, because this is my passion, this DNA stuff, I am like so into this right now. So today I am bringing back a very special guest. Her name is Tuck Self. She is a dear friend. She is an author. She is a life coach. She is a teacher. And she probably knows more about the gene keys and human design than anybody I've ever seen or heard of before, maybe except for the people who created those two modalities. Her website is therebelbelle.com, www.therebellbelle. There you go. .com. All right. So welcome back, Tuck.
Hi, Jean. Happy Monday morning.
Same to you. And y'all have got to know this, that since I met Tuck and she introduced me to human design and the gene keys, boy, my life has been like on a fast track towards raising my consciousness and really finding my purpose, finding what I'm supposed to be playing in on this lifetime, you know, understanding what my challenges are and how to move past those guys. And I've had some huge breakthroughs just in the last month through this work. So I'm really indebted to you, Tuck. And there may be some people who have not listened to the first interview that I did with Tuck. So guys, if you didn't get that one, go out onto my website or Power Talk XYZ and find the archive for the first one that I did with Tuck a couple of months ago, where she talked about human design, which is the basis for all of this work. And we're not going to get really into too much of that today because we're really more exploring the gene keys aspect of it. So let's dive into that one, Tuck. And can you tell people about what these gene keys are and how they sort of play into who we are, what we're here to do and be, and how to move through it all gracefully?
Yes, and I'm going to reference back before I answer that question, reference back to what you said about your breakthroughs. And I guess the thing to ask you would be, were your breakthroughs physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual? Were they on all those levels?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, that to me is what makes the gene keys as powerful as they are. I know there's many systems out in the world that are available to support us in changing, navigating change without fear, transforming outworn structures in our lives. And my modus operandi has been to run around looking outside of myself for the answer. And what the gene keys do is they give us the power. That's a great word, responsibility to do our own work. And they are a beautiful guide in doing that. The 64 gene keys correlate to, when we were talking about human design, one of the underlying truths in esoteric sciences that were synthesized into human energy design was the Chinese I Ching. 64 hexagrams. It's an old divination system that have been used for years to guide and direct people's lives. What the gene keys are they represent the 64 hexagrams of the Chinese I Ching and the 64 codons in our genetic code. It is a book that is beautifully written by the powerful, brilliant, provocative Richard Rudd. And he has taken the 64 hexagrams of the Chinese I Ching and brought his own downloaded, beautiful presentation and expression of what these 64 archetypes are. So they're archetypal expressions. We can look at them as portals into the essence of our soul. We can speak a couple of different ways about what they are. It's a transmission, it's a language, but there's 64 of them, and each one of the 64 has a different way that it expresses itself in the world. You and I choose X number of gene keys to express in this incarnation. So these 64 gene keys are beautifully laid out in this book in a language called the spectrum of consciousness. And so it says to you and me, you know what, Jean, you have a sequence laid down inside every cell of your body that if you but tap into that, if you unleash it, if you understand it, if you create a way to have a connection and a conversation with this language, you can be in control of your frequency and the vibration of your light and your energy and your aura in the world. And so the way he has laid out this beautiful language is a language of awareness, a language of consciousness, or a language of frequency. And every single one of these gene keys presents itself to you as how it could show up at the low expression of that gene key. So let's talk about your light. Let's talk about your gene key of light, the 11th gene key. The shadow of the 11th gene key is obscurity. Now that can mean many things to many people because it's a word that we all know. And so I would say, Jean, go read the Gene Keys book and let the shadow speak to you as to what it means. You have the conversation with your soul as you're reading it. What I'll say, because I have the 11th gene key, it's my being narrow in how I see things. Mm-hmm. It's my holding myself in a place of obscurity inwardly and outwardly. And that's a shadow way that I might show up and vibrate and express myself in the world, because who I am at the gift level is idealism. And anybody who knows Tuck Self knows that I'm one of the most Pollyanna, idealistic, visionary people on the planet, as are you. That is the gift. It is the gift of idealism. So broader vision, seeing the bigger picture, stimulating people, with a beautiful story about possibility is that 11th gift. And then at the Siddhi, Siddhi, he shares how we might show up in the highest expression and potential of that particular gene key. And the word there is light. Light. And it's every shadow contains a gift. And so for me and mine, Jean, I don't know about yours, but mine showed up not just internally, but externally. I actually noticed that I would live in my bedroom. I never opened the blinds. There was no light in my room. I've noticed if I ever work in an office that doesn't have windows, it's as if my spirit is being suffocated. It's that kind of obscurity for me. And so even though it looks externally, obscure, in here, there's that sense of darkness. And so if I open the window and I literally let the light in, or sit in an office that has windows, it opens that expansiveness and that visionary and that idealistic and light capacity of my energy. So it's not just physical and external, it's internal. So each one of the 64 gene keys has its own word, has its own way of expressing itself, and is laid out beautifully across a spectrum of consciousness so that you and I can take responsibility for whether we're living a life that's filled with obstacles and stuckness and conditioning, or we dive into that shadow and let it explode into the gift and the creativity and the many epiphanies that you've had. And as I listen to you, because I know your story, I'm clear that your breakthroughs were physical, they were mental, they were emotional, and they were spiritual on all levels. And what a beautiful tool to have to go and do that kind of work. You're inside yourself.
And, and by myself, really, I have your support on it, but, the physical aspect of this that happened was that, I've been troubled over years with issues with one of my knees. And as I began to let in more light and allow my genetic structure and my DNA to expand and to morph and mutate into more of the gift than the shadow, I was able to really move to the next level in healing that knee, that's been a really good thing. But a lot of the most recent breakthrough that I chronicled in my most recent blog, and I credit you in there. So listeners and viewers, if you want to read that blog, it was in my latest newsletter. So if you are a newsletter subscriber, you would see that. But also go to the blog post on the homepage of my website, jeanneadrienne.com, and check it out. Because what really happened for me was that I got in touch with something that you said, Tuck, because you told me that part of the shadow aspect of some of my more predominant gene keys, the ones in the activation sequence, which I want to talk about next, was letting go and losing sight of my dream and giving up on my dream. And man, I thought, no, I don't buy that, because I live my dream. Man, I live up here in this beautiful log cabin on top of a mountain, and I've got all my books and my cards that I've published and clients, and I just have a great life. But so I started really, really pondering it. And that's what this gene key thing is all about, is you have to get in and be with it, sit with it, meditate on it, contemplate it, to use your word. And what I realized was, holy moly, I didn't know what my dream was. So how could I tell you if I'd given up on it or lost sight of it? I didn't even know what it was. And when I started drilling down into that one, talk about a gobsmack. Whoa. And I was able to see how I had been living in the shadow and allowing everything to pull me away from that dream. So thank you very much.
And it's fascinating too, Jean, because I believe we said, or I know I've said, when I'm talking about human design, and the same thing can be said about the gene keys and the golden pathway. There's a simplicity to it. There really is a simplicity to it, but there are so many subtle layers, and it's a process of letting the transmission come in. And because you've been looking at this stuff for a while, and it wasn't until recently when you looked at your lines, not your gene keys, but the lines that go to your gene keys. When you looked at that part of it, that was where you got the information about trusting and surrendering and letting go and, being patient with the dream, that even gave you the thought that you could have possibly maybe have given up on your dream, because for all 6 lines, it is a long-term view. The dream is morphing and it's malleable and it's changing based on the many experiences that you have throughout your life. So I find it beautiful and fascinating that, even after all this time, here's a beautiful breakthrough that you got for something that was that vital to your life.
Totally changing, completely changing. And, and so what I've been doing, and I took another major step on this yesterday, is I've been weeding out all of the things in my life that are not in alignment with my dream. Yesterday, I resigned from a board of trustees for a nonprofit that was sucking me dry, because my dream is about being appreciated and accepted. I was not being appreciated for the work I was doing, and I was not being accepted. Now, I know at a very deep level that I have to find that stuff within me, but I shouldn't be expending energy that in places where I'm getting bam, 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 that are the opposite of my dream. And so I had to turn in a resignation yesterday. And it was really difficult because one of my gene keys talks about the fact that I don't like confrontation. I want peace and I want harmony and I want everybody to be happy, so that was very difficult for me. But part of this breakthrough was that I had typed the letter up, I put it in an envelope, and I took it to the meeting. And when the meeting was over, I handed it over to the president. And I did that from a place of strength. Now, my backup plan was if I didn't have the guts to do that, then I was going to send an email when I got home. But it wasn't a problem. In the past, it would have been.
Yeah. People can get the Gene Keys book and use that, like I said, as an oracle, as a guide, open to any gene key in the book on any day of the week, and allow it to guide the energy of the day. However, what Richard did was create a course and a sequence called the Golden Pathway, where you get to use the Gene Key book to look at the information around the gene keys as you go through the Golden Pathway. So let me explain what the Golden Pathway is, as that is one of the most beautiful sequences other than human design that has come down the pike, that gives us the potential, that again puts the responsibility in our hands to find our way back home, to self-illuminate, to become masterful within ourselves. And it is also can be looked at as a sequence that's laid down in our DNA. It is literally the sequence that lives in every cell of our body. And the sequence is wound, and our job with the Golden Pathway is to gently unwound the sequence in the DNA. And so there are three pathways, there are three sequence and pathways to the Golden Pathway. And they are about your life purpose. That's the first sequence. The second one is about tuck and partnership with herself, others, and God. So it's partnerships. And the third sequence, it's prosperity. It is tuck playing in the world, making her authentic contribution to creation in the most essential and simplistic and authentic way possible, in creating boatloads of abundance and prosperity in the process. Now, if that doesn't sound exciting, everybody is looking to discover who they are, why they're here, how to live, how they're impacted by others, how they impact. And it's all laid out in this beautiful sequence in three beautiful steps: purpose, partnerships, and prosperity. It takes a while to go through it. It really does, because you are diving in. Again, each sequence is like diving into portals to your soul. And so what you made reference to a minute ago was the activation sequence, which is all about your purpose. For anyone who knows human design, it's like what we call the incarnate cross, the 4 gene keys, the 4 gates, the 2 gates that show up in the personality sign and the design sign, and the gene keys that show up in the personality earth and the design earth, that make up 70% of who we are. So in the Golden Pathway, the activation sequence with these 4 gene keys is laid out in this beautiful path, I believe, of self-discovery of our own internal genius. It is a way of working inside ourselves with our higher selves in a way that we begin to ground the pure essence of who we are down into the physical core of our being, of our form. We're grounding our genius in the essence of who we are, because, Jean, we are so conditioned to be who we are not.
Yeah.
So much so we don't even know that we're being who we're not. I don't even know that I'm being who I'm not. And then it manifests in my body and smacks me, and so I have to take a look at it. And so the 4 beautiful positions in this activation sequence, which are all about you, again, unleashing your genius, the light at your core, involve your life's work, your life's lessons, which we call the evolution point, your radiance point, and then your life purpose. And so your life's work and your life lessons, the evolution point, these are the outward expressions of your form in the world. I mean, this is a conscious way that you express yourself in the world. And there is a challenge between these two. And remember, if you look at your 2 gene keys, one in the life's work and one in the life's lessons, it's going to show up either as a shadow, the gift, or the city highest expression. And we'll talk about yours in just a minute. Mm-hmm. But there's a challenge. Our life's work is always being challenged by the gene key and our evolution point. And so our job, our work, is to play with that tension and that challenge and that shadow, and to love it and to embrace it, so that we can explode into the gift, explode into those 2 gifts, and express ourselves out into the world with the essence of those 2 gene keys. When we do, we have a friggin' breakthrough to our radiance. And the radiance is one of the unconscious expressions. The life purpose is an unconscious expression. So the radiance, it's what you begin to radiate out, because it's about your internal and your external environment, and how that remains healthy and how it can best be healthy, so that it radiates itself out into the world. And of course, once we're radiating, right, we begin to ground ourselves into the core stability of who we are, which is our purpose for being on the planet. And those are unconscious gifts. And so it's these unconscious essences of becoming, being, it's being that then gets to express itself outwardly by becoming out into the world. You have, and it's fascinating, as you were talking a minute ago, your 2 gene keys in your life's work and your evolution point are gene keys that are about nurturing people, taking care of people, very powerfully teaching, though, and educating, but being the key to harmony and support. And your challenge to that is exhaustion, giving yourself away, not balancing how much of yourself you're giving and how much of yourself you're keeping, to yourself, inside of yourself. So you spoke the very tension and the challenge between those 2 gene keys. And then you did this. Remember when you did this? The way out for you is divine will and tenderness. Tenderness towards oneself, because your shadow words are weakness and exhaustion. And then your way out is through the divine will and through the tenderness. How did that feel to you? Because that's what I heard you say.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Until I began this journey on the golden path, I didn't see where I was giving myself away. I thought, man, I'm of service and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing in the world. And I lost the balance. In this particular nonprofit, it was like I was single-handedly trying to keep this boat that was sinking afloat.
Yeah.
And it wasn't my job. Nobody else was trying. It was just me. And they were all pushing back on me, not being supportive, not appreciating. And I ended up spending days in the bed. I mean, I would get up, I would do it. By like 2:00 in the afternoon, man, I was headed back in between the sheets, to take a nap because I was exhausted. Yeah. So it was affecting me physically. Man, I haven't had a nap, I think, since I took that class with you in Charleston, because I haven't needed that. I've got more energy now than I had before, because I'm not allowing my energy to be just poured down into a bottomless well.
Giving yourself away, and the way you're tying it back to the fact that this particular sequence is a physical process. It's you were feeling exhausted physically, or in your physicality. You were feeling weak in your physicality. And so when I talked about the gene keys being a portal to our souls, and this being a language and a transmission from our spirit, what a beautiful way for spirit to be talking to you. Kind of like mine's oppression. My life lesson is oppression. Yeah. There is so much truth. I always say, when truth begins to jump off the page, there's something here. There's something to be noted. I get excited for you more so. I mean, I love your conscious gifts, but the unconscious gifts that you carry in your radiance point, the 5th gene key and the 35th gene key. So you carry the 5th gene key in your radiance and the 35th gene key in your life purpose. Your radiance has everything to do with timelessness. And the reason I love that is because the only place we're ever spontaneous, the only place we ever manifest is in timelessness, in the void, in the field of all. That's where everything emerges from. And what a beautiful place for you to be, to never go into exhaustion.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, yeah. Now, folks that are watching and listening to us, you can get involved with this for yourself by contacting Tuck, because she is just an amazing coach when it comes to looking at life, well, in every way, but especially when it comes to looking at life from the aspects of your genetics. So go to her website, therebelbelle, BELLE.com, and check it out and see what it would take for you to begin to step onto this path for yourself, because it's pretty freaking amazing. And you guys are going to have an opportunity to work with me and Tuck both in December the 10th. We're going to be doing a Living Consciously Expo in Atlanta, where she's going to be talking about the gene keys and human design, and I'm going to be talking about activating the actual threads of DNA. And one of the things I think is really so cool about this is that so many of the activations that I found dovetail, even have the exact same names as these gene keys. I mean, it's like, whoa, how could it get any better than that? So there's a place on the homepage of my website. You just click on that banner there that's got Tux and my picture on it, along with Simran Singh and Dee Wallace, who are two of the other presenters at this thing. Click on it. It will take you right in. You can get your ticket. And right below that banner, there is a code that you can put in that will give you $20 off of your ticket. So come to Atlanta and join us for this, because it's going to be exciting.
I know. Be transformed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I drew the card of immortality the other day out of your deck. With the 28th gene key in the Gene Keys work. And I've had some great thoughts all week long after drawing that card. So it's quite powerful.
Cool beans. Cool beans.
Yeah.
So, Tuck, before we run out of time, just, what would you offer up to a viewer or a listener who doesn't really know what we're dealing with here? Where would they want to begin?
Well, it's fascinating. I was working with a client yesterday, and she's heard about the Golden Pathway for years and has been directed to the website. And she began her journey and made a comment of how supportive it was to have somebody lay it out, get her started, check in with her periodically. I would go to the Gene Keys website and look at the tab that says profile and get a copy of my free hologenetic profile. Can they re-listen to this webinar?
Oh, yeah, over and over and over again, yes.
Re-listen to the webinar, because you'll have a sheet in front of you to at least look at the activation sequence. I absolutely love and adore guiding people through this process. It takes a while. You cannot go through the activation sequence in a week like I tried to do. You just can't do it.
And like I did at first until I was like, whoa, back
a couple of months, because this is a deep dive into the essence of who you are. But you've got to go get your hologenetic profile to start off with, and then you've got to purchase start with the activation sequence of the golden pathway and take it a sequence at a time. So dive into the activation sequence, and most certainly give me a call. You are welcome to call me 803-665-0847, and I will be happy to guide you through. But it is a process that will change your life. It is not complicated, even though it may sound that way. It is very simple, because this is your soul calling out to you to come back home.
Oh, yeah. And that is so truly what happens when you kind of begin to immerse yourself. It's like immersing yourself into a warm tub, and it surrounds you, and it relaxes you, and it just feels like love is what it does. That's the best way I can describe this process. Yeah, exactly. So, listeners, we are out of time, but this has been great fun. And Tuck, thank you so much. I'm going to have you back again, because I want to talk about the Venus sequence, which is that one about how you relate in the world. When I get to that point, because right now I'm still playing in that activation sequence, and so as I begin to have more breakthroughs, then I want to look at it in more depth. But also, I truly invite you guys to join us at this Living Consciously Expo in Atlanta, December the 10th. So check that out. I'm sure it's on Tuck's website like it is on mine. And we're just going to kind of go from there. And again, her website, therebelbell.com. The Gene Keys website, so that you can get your free profile, is it the Gene Keys or Gene Keys?
Just Gene Keys.
Gene Keys, GeneKeys.com. So check that out as well. And join me next week when my guest is going to be Lori Houston. She's my co-host the first Monday of every month. We're going to be doing the Voices of Soul thing, where she will be doing her intuitive readings, and then I'll be doing a clearing using the Inner Speak cards for anyone who calls in. So call in early so you make sure you get your reading and clearing on that one. And Tuck, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jean. I enjoyed being with you today, and I hope people got something, a little morsel of light and idealism from us.
Oh, I'm sure that they did. How could they not? So, viewers, until next time, remember, people who take responsibility for their lives create the realities they desire. Ciao.
Thanks for watching Power Talk. Appreciate all watching.